People have this idea that Trump can sign a bunch of paperwork and things like DEI, and all the other stupid programs that nobody has liked over the last 8 to 10 years, and all the bad actors that go with them will suddenly just kind of whisk out of existence. That would be nice. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. Trump and his people are going to have a long slog ahead of them, pretty much a war on the internal government that they that is set up all around them, and the outcome is not at all assured. I'm going to tell you a story from my military days as an illustration. Now, a lot of what was going on at the time was classified, and I have to assume it still is. So there's going to be a lot of vagueness in how I describe things. So there was another classified program. We'll call it the Alpha Project, just to give it a name. The organization running Alpha had a lot of different programs they worked on, and Alpha was one of dozens of things. This organization got a new commander, and at that particular time in history, the only way you got a promotion as an officer was by eliminating manpower slots. So he looked all over his programs and he noted that Alpha wasn't really part of their mission area. It was kind of expensive for what it delivered, and it was the least productive asset they had. This commander cut funding to zero and eliminated a bunch of the manpower slots associated with it. The bureaucrats and the support contractors decided that they were going to keep Alpha alive. Now, you might be familiar with the term SCIF. It's an area with secure doors and that only people with the proper clearance can access. There are certain programs, special access, which certain people are read into and a lot of others are not. So this leads to situations where there are actually skiffs within skiffs. Sometimes there's skiffs within skiffs within skiffs. Uh, it's kind of almost ludicrous at points. So a person may be able to walk into one highly secure area only to discover additional secure areas within that they don't have access to at all. Now, the bureaucrats moved the core elements of Alpha into a megaskiff that their commander didn't have access to. Now, there wasn't room for the whole system, so the contractors helped hide other portions of the system. Alpha received data from multiple outside organizations. These outside organizations cooperated by obscuring where they were sending the data. The manpower slots that were cut were distributed around to other programs. The key people who ran Alpha were still in the same location, just assigned to other positions. They kept Alpha running at a diminished level. They brought in money for the program by selling processing time through their contractors for related programs. Portions of this data analysis money were skimmed as stay alive money for Alpha. They also used end-of-year funding by requesting proposals for fictitious support of approved programs. Now, 2 years later, the commanding officer was gone, and then Alpha was brought out fully back online, and the new commander either supported Alpha's existence or just assumed it was supposed to be there. Now, just for the people watching that know me, this did not happen at the organization I worked for. So here's the general point of this. First, you can't just eliminate slots, you have to target people. We are already starting to see this happen where some of one of the agencies had their DEI lead, and instead of being a DEI trainer, they were renamed senior officer with just basically a web page switch. This kind of stuff's going to go on, and there's going to be a lot more sophisticated versions of it. Even in important constitutional organizations like the DoD, there's going to have to be mass cullings. More people there are, the more of a crowd the bad actors have to hide in. Government workers, generally, are not overworked. They have lots of slack time. If they are motivated, they will use some of their slack time to keep prohibited things going. Less people means less man hours available for shenanigans. Contractors are also a major danger here. They have a vested interest in keeping the money going. They will actively hide physical assets, data, and files to protect them to bring out at a later date. Contractors need to be audited if they are suspected of hiding prohibited programs. The government has to be willing to cancel all contracts for even big contractors, no matter how important they are, in order to get the contractors to quit the prohibited programs. In many cases, there are key individuals working for these contractor firms that the government may have to force the removal of particular people in order to prevent them from causing problems. Once a bad actor, always a bad actor, no matter what their new title is or the new program name that they have on their office door. The government needs to account for every square inch of space that they own and lease. Any spot can become a clandestine location for personnel, materials, or even operations, even broom closets. Now, that might sound like an exaggeration, but I'm not kidding. We had programs that were so sensitive that only one or two people could have access to them. So back in this mega skiffs, they converted literal broom closets into temporary sensitive sub skiffs. All that were in them were a table, a chair, and a PC. That could be enough to keep some program that we don't want running in some form of mothball state that can be brought back at a later date. The government needs to inspect all the space owned by the contractors to look for stay alive operations of prohibited programs. If there are doors that can't be entered, round the clock guards need to be placed until it's breached. The same goes for safes. All safes that seem to have no owner need to be drilled. Trusted IT agents need to map all the networks and physically audit all the PCs. All accounts will need to be identified by their owners. Audits of budgets at levels never before performed in this government need to be enacted. Every penny needs to be accounted for. Interagency payments need to be scrutinized. Fallout funds, that's the kind of stuff that ends up at the end of the fiscal year that nobody could spend, and they try to find someone to spend it rapidly. Fallout funds, it would be best if they were absolutely terminated. That's probably not going to happen. So we need zero level audits on these as well. And beware of things ending up in the literal homes of contractors. I had an incident where I and a particular contractor had been in one place. We both ended up in a different place across the country. And I had mentioned, wow, it would be so great if we had this particular high value piece of equipment for this job. Now, he got a funny look on his face when I told him how much it cost. He said, "True, if let's say this piece of equipment just happened to end up on your desk tomorrow, what would you say to that?" Well, it turns out he had it in his garage. Now, nobody told him how much it was worth. People literally just lost track of it. He volunteered to bring it back. And in that case, it was not deliberate. He was not trying to take it. Someone just gave it to him and he ended up packing it up and didn't think anything of it. And nobody missed it. But for what's going on now, it shouldn't be unexpected that contractors will illegally hold data, records, and equipment that further things that Americans want stopped. My ultimate point here is I'm not saying getting rid of garbage government can't be done. I'm saying it's going to be a lot harder than these first week headlines we're getting all over X are seeming to indicate. There's a lot of work ahead. So, in the comments section below, what kind of impact do you think these attempts to reorganize government are going to have? Are they going to stall out? Is the bureaucracy going to win? Or do you think there's a real chance there may be some change this time? Um, you've been involved in the past with the government, military, etc., where you've seen things kind of like what I was describing, where something was being told to be shut down and they hid it rather than shut it down like they were supposed to. I'd be interested to hear your story. Please smash the like button. If the YouTube algorithms brought you here and you're not a regular subscriber, please check out my other titles. I get into a lot of things. I'm sure you'll find something you like. Please subscribe. And if you know someone who might find this interesting, share it with them. Thank you for spending time with me this evening. Hope to see you again in a future video.